Unlike cars, powersports are not purchases of necessity, but of passion. It's what also separates powersports dealers from other salespeople. They're not just selling vehicles. They're selling vehicles they love and the love of riding that goes with them. However, after the mad rush of sales during COVID and the post-pandemic sales slump, dealers have struggled to attract new riders and return to a state of pre-pandemic operations. According to Brent Gyuricza, dealer principal of Maverick Motorsports in western Montana, the key to reinvigorating a dealership lies in getting back to the basics and creating a sense of community. All right, Brent, how would you sum up the state of the industry in one sentence?
In one sentence?
In one sentence.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure. In one sentence, the state of the industry. How about in one word?
Okay, go for it.
Exciting.
Okay, now you may elaborate and tell me more about that.
Well, I feel like some of the product that is coming down the line is absolutely amazing. We're seeing a tremendous amount of new engineering, new componentry. I think all the way from motorcycles to side-by-sides. I mean, we've got motorcycles now with lean angle, sensor integrated ABS braking, lane tracking, just a number of safety features being added in. You look at the side-by-side world, just the shock geometries, the builds on the machines just continue to allow you to race in what would have been the equivalent of a $250,000 like Baja racer 10 years ago now is an off-the-shelf purchased product. So super exciting. And then for me personally, not everyone agrees with me on this, and because they're wrong. But that's the EV stuff that we're starting to see, and we're seeing the hybrid. But I mean, ultimately, we're going to go EV. I think that's an exciting opportunity. Sure, there'll be some bumps in the road, but I think what we're seeing on the EV front is really a big game changer, and I personally can't wait to see a broader approach, a broader acceptance of it, because I think that's just going to accelerate where we're going, and I think people will, with time, see that there is absolutely, that is where the future needs to go. That we can do everything we want. And I'm a motorhead. You know, I had a boss one time that said there's people with sport genes and people with motor genes. I definitely have that motor gene, but there's something about electric that once you get into it, it's just as exciting as internal combustion to me.
All right, so there was a lot in that answer that I want to unpack.
Okay.
But I'm going to kind of pull back a little bit and just, you said there's a lot of exciting new types of vehicles coming out. So what trends are you seeing with consumers? Like, what are they excited to buy?
You know, so can we break this into motorcycles and side-by-sides?
Sure, yeah.
I'm gonna skip over ATV because I honestly think ATV is kind of a dying segment. Okay. I think we're gonna continue to see people moving towards motorcycles and side-by-sides. And I think ATVs outside of some farm and just, utilitarian applications is gonna go away. But I would say on the motorcycle side, how should I say it? Let me. So now, again, some of this is obviously my opinion.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Disclaimer: this is my opinion. A lot of people are skeptical of some of the new technology and engineering in the bikes, but it makes motorcycling safer overall. And it is where it's going to need to go. I mean, we've got self-driving cars. I don't want to be on a self-driving motorcycle, but at the same time, if I have a motorcycle that can make my experience safer, I'd like to have that. And I think the traction control, I think the ability to have lean angle with dynamic front rear ABS braking and a computer that's processing at a thousandth of a second, versus my ability to like feel that something's going wrong maybe after 3 seconds is really cool. And anyone that says it isn't, I just would ask them to watch MotoGP. And you ask any of those MotoGP riders to turn off all their electronics that they've got integrated into those bikes for more than 2 seconds, and those bikes are not going to stay on the track and do what they're doing with them. So I'm really excited on that motorcycle side, and I think most savvy consumers, I think particularly younger riders, are excited to embrace that new technology that's coming down. On the side-by-side realm, there is a lot of excitement for the electrical usage. And I think more so than I think motorcycles. I think there's more people that want to be on side-by-sides that are electric than motorcycles. And I think that comes down to side-by-side people are getting out back in the wilderness. And let's just be honest, it doesn't matter how good the CVT belt system is, or even if it's a direct drive system, those engines are noisy. And it takes away from a lot of the enjoyment of the experience. You go into an electric vehicle and you're out, and now suddenly you're having a blast while you're enjoying your surrounding environment, not just through sight, but through sight and sound and smell. And I think it opens it up to just a more immersive experience. So I believe the side-by-side realm is going to adopt electric a lot faster than the motorcycle realm overall. But I do think on the side-by-side, we're just getting some really cool options. I mean, you look at, almost all of them are pulling it now. Kawasaki, Segway, CF Moto, Yamaha, the on-demand trail sport, crawl modes. You've got electronic suspension with on-demand. You can soften that suspension. And not that it was that hard before to get out there and do a couple little clicks to soften it up, but terrain changes fast, and to be able to just turn that dial and suddenly soften that suspension up, it's cool. There's cool stuff coming down the road. Technology is freaking amazing, and I think what we're gonna see enter into the field, motorcycling side-by-side over the next 5 years, is really gonna be groundbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. And so going back to your point about, electric adoption and everything. Depending on one's viewpoint, there may or may not be consumer interest, but perhaps the real question is there dealer interest? And how do we get dealers more on board with stocking, electric vehicles?
Well, some of it's going to take, I think manufacturers just pushing that agenda. Obviously, if the manufacturer drives the agenda, then kind of like with showrooms, we don't have any other option but to adopt and adapt. If we go to us just accepting it and then pushing it to the consumer, I think the best way to do that is you get out there and you ride it. I remember we had a Zero motorcycle in the shop, and we were showing it off, and it was a Harley rider came in, and he's like, "I'll never ride a electric motorcycle as long as I live. It's an abomination." It was like, yeah, it's the devil. And I was like, "Listen, I just want you to do me a favor." I was like, "I will give you $100 if you go out and you take this for a ride and you come back and you tell me you did not have an amazing time." And he goes out, he takes it for the ride, he comes back in, takes off his helmet, and he's got the biggest grin on his face. And he's like, "That was amazing." He was like, "That was incredible." So I don't think it's that hard to convert people. I think everyone immediately has that hesitation, immediately says, "No, electric vehicle's bad, and it's not fun, it's not a real motorcycle." And then you put them on it and they realize, wow, that's a fantastic experience. I enjoyed that. So
the torque makes it so much fun.
oh my goodness, it does. And now, particularly, I think my very first actual crash on a motorcycle on the street was on an electric motorcycle on a corner. Granted, brand new tires, like all the chronic rules. It was below freezing, brand new tires, and I blipped that throttle, and that back tire was gone. so fast. It was so much torque, but it's like an amusement park ride. I mean, when you first get started, it's so much fun to ride those electric vehicles. And I think for the manufacturers, though, to really get adoption is range. And I know there's that range anxiety that's not real because we think we need more than we need. But there is a real range. I'm in Montana, and so most of our major cities are separated by about 140, 150 miles, and we've got faster interstates. They're mostly empty, and our speed is 80 on all the interstate. And so to be able to make it from city to city, we have to have that electric range. And we're just not there yet with electric, but I look forward to the day we are, because I will be a quick adopter of electric motorsports.
Very good, very good. All right, so going back to the industry overall, kind of big picture, what do you think that the industry is doing right, and what could it be doing better?
Well, I think the industry is trying to figure out how to operate successfully. And I think there's still a lot of pressure in the industry for motorsports to follow along with the automotive lines. How does automotive line do it? We make our showrooms a certain way, and we deal with the customer a certain way. And I just recently talked to an owner, a very large automotive and powersports owner brand, and he was telling me, and they've got trainers that go into the different powersports dealerships, their own trainers that they have on full time. And he was telling me how initially, because they started as an automotive group, they wanted the powersports groups to be like the automotive groups. And he said it's just not possible. It is a different breed. It is a different type of sales. It is a different customer, and it's a different type of employee. And so I do think there's a lot of manufacturers, though, that are still trying to say, we've got to follow the automotive standard. And I think that a lot of that shows up in the showrooms. The expense and the energy is misplaced, in my opinion.
What do you think the industry is doing right?
I think the industry is really trying to find new users. And when I specifically think about like Motorcycle Industry Council and some of their efforts, I like the fact, number one, that they're protecting the industry, the motorsports industry, the UTV, ATV, the motorcycle folks. But I think what they're really doing or trying to do well at is attract new people, attract new riders, and make that point of entry easier. And I think as an industry, one of the areas that we've struggled with the most is attracting more female riders. And not that they're nailing it, but I appreciate and I think that they're doing a good job, at least right now, of recognizing that, and that they haven't been doing a good job of bringing in new riders, and particularly female riders, who make up a small percentage right now, particularly of motorcycle riders.
Yeah. Do you have any ideas on, how we can better attract female riders or just new riders in general?
Yeah, I've got a lot of ideas about that. As a man, I can tell you all the ways that we should attract more women riders. Put women in charge of making, the best way to attract more women riders is to put women in charge of reaching women riders. I think right now, even though we're making some valiant efforts to attract more women riders, it's mostly men doing it. And I don't think that we really know what a woman rider is looking for necessarily. I don't think it's been part of our motorcycle culture to really cultivate women riders. And so I think, and I applaud MIC for hiring a female as their new CEO. I think that was a brilliant move. We need to see more of that. We need to see more of the manufacturers and more of the marketing actually being directed and run by females, because that's who's going to reach more females.
Absolutely. So speaking of MIC, you work with them, correct?
I do. I'm on the Dealer Advisory Council.
All right. Can you tell me more about like what you do there as part of that council, and what initiatives you're taking with it?
Well, so it's in a kind of in a reformative stage right now. We did have a couple of our long-standing members that retired from their positions at AIM Expo this year. So I think we're going to be going in some bold new directions. At least that's my hope. It's an important, in my opinion, part of MIC, because the manufacturers make up most of the board. And I do think manufacturers have a lot of great ideas. Obviously, they've got a lot of money, and they've got a lot vetted and resting on the success of the MIC. But as dealers, I think a lot of times we bring a different perspective than the manufacturer. We literally are the boots on the ground. So we see things from the front lines, we see what's going on. And so for us, in the Dealer Advisory Council, I think what we're able to do is really provide that extra little bit of insight to the manufacturers, representing dealers nationwide, and suggest and strongly encourage for them to look at some of the things that we're seeing from the dealership perspective. And I think one of those big ones, again, would be female ridership. But also safety. And I think that's, as dealers, we cannot encourage more safety measures for the general public and their awareness of riders, but also in us as dealers, what can we do to make sure that our customers are safe? Are they getting proper training? Are they being placed on bikes that are way outside of their limits? And from that standpoint, and this has not happened yet, this is Brent's opinion.
Yeah.
I really see that Europe has, you look at the ridership in Europe and how many people do ride, and they have some strong safety precautions. They're not letting a 16-year-old go out, get a motorcycle license without any training, and then buy a 1,000cc sport bike. And I think there's some things that we can continue to do that make riding a safer sport and give riders a safer introduction to the lifestyle.
So let's talk about dealership life. And I know we talked a bit earlier about it's hard to recruit staff at a dealership. How should you be recruiting help?
Wow. So this is, I think, the most difficult thing about running a dealership is finding quality help, because anytime we have great staff, we know that the automotive world or the RV world can pay that staff 20 to 40% more to do the exact same job they're doing for us. So that's one of the toughest things, that a lot of times we'll find someone, we'll train that person, and then we'll lose that person to another industry. Now, I have found, and I have seen it on multiple occasions though, where they come back, because we are, I think, a much funner culture and environment to work in. So I think that's probably the most important thing to retaining employees, is actually creating that positive work environment that is about passion, it is about hobbies, it is about personal interest, and continuing to integrate that into their daily work life. I think what we have found time and time again that the best way to recruit into the industry is really to find capable individuals who are already customers or are already part of the lifestyle that want to try to make it their career. When I look at all of our longest standing employees, almost every one of them were recruited out of our customer base. And that's kind of a cool thing. And it's something, though, you have to just be mindful of. One of our salespeople, who is our most successful salesperson, he came in one time on a lunch break, and he was working for a furniture company and actually had gone out to repossess some furniture. And I was like, wow, you're repossessing furniture? That's pretty crazy. That's got to take some guts. And he's like, yeah, it was a little sketchy. I wasn't really comfortable. And I said, how do you think you'd feel about selling motorcycles? I feel like if you could repossess furniture, you should be able to sell a motorcycle. And he's like, man, that would be a dream job. And made him an offer, and 2 weeks later he came to work for us, and almost 8 years later he's still working with us. So
that's an amazing story. So aside from attracting people who are your customers, who already have that passion, are there any other ways, incentives that you can offer potential employees? Because you mentioned like they could go somewhere else to another dealership, an automotive one, and probably have a higher paying job there. Is there something that as an industry we can start doing to, help them along?
Sure. Well, a couple of the things that we've done, because we have looked at all of them, and I think at the end of the day, people want to know they have health care. They want to have some of these things where they feel like they've got a standard of living that is protected by the benefits they receive. And we do our best to provide those in a way that is comparable to the industry. A couple of things that we've done that are different, and I've just have found, and I've learned this from my own experience having a lot of success in sales early on, that again, you can spend every single dollar you make. It doesn't matter how much you make. And a lot of our employees, even though they were making good salaries, didn't own homes. So we started making an incentive where we would help them buy their first home. And so as they work for us over a number of years, we have a little bank of funds that we set aside for them that can only be purchased or used for the purchase of buying a new house. And then I personally will usually sit down with them if they need it and show them how to structure a deal, how to buy a first house, how to talk to the bank. We've worked with some local community programs that will put them through a first-time buyers program. And I forget what we're on now. We started this program 3 years ago, and I think we've got 5, maybe 7 employees that have bought first-time houses through this program. And I think that's maybe the program I'm the most excited about, and it's one that I'm always excited when they use that money, and it gets someone that leg up chance.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a very unique and frankly, modern way to help out with, especially, the housing crisis nowadays, that, homes are so expensive and people are having trouble affording them. And back in the days of giant factories, they would build their own, neighborhoods, and obviously not every company can afford to do that, but I think this is absolutely the next best thing is, helping them along, helping them help themselves to get a house. That's amazing. So, along with, and so that's part of your culture there is a culture of help. How else do you craft a dealership culture? One that helps retain these people or, brings them back after they may leave for a couple of years?
Sure. Well, I think the biggest thing that we have done, and I wouldn't say it's something that I've done, I think it's something that our staff do, is they make a point of not creating drama, of getting along with each other, of looking out for each other, and I think it comes from the staff themselves, developing an attitude that these are people that share a passion that I share, and regardless of whether I agree with them on everything, I'm just going to make a point of being civil and building friendships. And I just feel like our staff have done an exceptionally good job of not letting petty circumstances or differences rule their work environment or their after-work environment. And they have built some good friendships and good acquaintances. And even if they're not like the best of friends that hang out every weekend, they respect each other. I think that's not something that I've done. I think that's just something that they've done. And when we hire, one of the things though at this point that we really look at is, will this person integrate well with the rest of the team?
Going back to what you were saying about you fell out of a lot of standard practices during COVID, and you've been having to kind of reintegrate those. What have been some of the perhaps pre-COVID practices that you had, or issues or differences that happened during COVID, and now you're having to relearn all of this, like with sales? You basically just like sold whatever you had on the floor, and now you've got so much left. What do you have to do to, I guess, retrain sales to sell again?
Sure. I mean, I think it starts with the sales office, right? And that's number one. A sale's not a given. We have to go back to, you actually have to work for the sale. We went from being salespeople to kind of being clerks. Like, what do you have for a side-by-side? I've got those 3 over there. Okay, I'll take that one, to now you've got, in particular with the expansion of models, instead of it's like, oh, you can pick from those 3 to here's 20 different models, having to be educated on the product, being able to listen to the customer and read their needs, being able to work with them through the purchase all the way through, be able to listen to concerns and objections, or maybe even price variances through another competitor. But I think one of the other funny things that we just kind of gave up on was doing any type of a formal dealership presentation, or we'll call it the poker run or whatever. And it just seemed like it became a matter of getting people in and out as quickly as we could, because I mean, we were just flooded, and not taking people back to the parts counter, not introducing people to the service manager or service writers, not, if they came in with a check, not taking the time to introduce them to the finance manager and at least let him have an opportunity to explain some of the finance products that they had. So we just got sloppy, we got lazy, and we were selling so much stuff it just didn't seem to matter. So to have to bring that back and re-educate ourselves, slow the processes down, and really in the end do right by the customer by actually engaging with them through the entire sales process and really making sure that they had all the tools in the dealership at their disposal so that they felt like they could be successful and have a good time.
Yeah. Okay, very good. I appreciate the super honest answer there. All right, so last question here for you. What does the future of the industry look like?
Didn't I say exciting already?
Well, you said that's what it currently is. So is the future exciting as well? Or
I think the future is exciting. I think we've got some really challenging moments right now across the board. I mean, in almost every segment, sales are pretty flat. We're having a hard time increasingly getting people financed. So there are some challenging moments right now, but I think this is a blip. Any of us that have been in Powersports for more than 8 years know that there are cycles to this industry. And right now there's some challenges, but I think the future looks bright. The product looks incredible. I think some of the manufacturers might be feeling a little greedy right now, and particularly post-COVID, but I think we've got a lot of great manufacturers out there. We've got a lot of great engineers working. I think the industry's got some of its brightest and best days ahead of it. So it's an exciting business to be in. It's not one that we're in to make crazy money, because I think any of us could go to another industry and easily make more. Again, it's about passion, and I love that the manufacturers are sharing the passion for the development of the industry and the sport. So I'm a bit of an eternal optimist, but I believe we're going to get past some of these financial hurdles and struggles. I think we all have been in a post-pandemic learning curve, and I think we're going to get there.
Maverick Motorsports exists because Brent Gyuricza bought a dealership that sold him a motorcycle, but not an experience. He felt that it was missing the sense of camaraderie and community that makes the powersports industry so unique. It's that innate sense of righting a wrong in the industry that has propelled him to take greater stands, from joining the Motorcycle Industry Council's Dealer Advisory Board to taking legal action against an OEM for unfair financial practices, and one that makes him a vehicle care rock star.
Some days life feels perfect, other days it just ain't working. The good, the bad, the right, the wrong, and everything in between. Yo, it's crazy, amazing, we can turn our heart through the words we say. Mountains crumble with every syllable, broken live or die. So speak.